So now, finally it's here, the how I recreated the Bugatti Chiron video. Hi there, my name is David and welcome to Bricks, Blocks and Mocks. So now, finally it's here, the how I recreated the Bugatti Chiron video. I'm so sorry it has taken such a long time to get this video out. And as I said in my updates and reveals and future plan video, I thought of maybe not making this video because I thought that not too many of you want to see it. And also because I have had quite a lot going on right now. But yeah, some of you want to see it, and as I promised to do this video, I decided to do it. And also thank you so much, 600 subscribers, 100 subscribers in about 1 or 2 weeks. So thanks a lot again. But yeah, now let's get on with the video. Alright, so the Bugatti Chiron, this was actually almost created even before I started building it. And what do I mean by that? I mean that a lot of the details and building techniques and stuff like that I had actually figured out before I even started building it. Not everything, of course, but almost always I have to adjust that quite a lot, just so the model will actually go together. But many things just worked out with this. And with that being said, this was actually not too hard to recreate, even though the Bugatti Chiron is a very curved based car, if you will, which is almost always quite hard to recreate in Lego. But this time it worked out pretty well. For example, the techniques that I thought of almost immediately was first the headlights, and also the grille and the rear light here, and also the sides actually. But yeah, I will get back to all of these parts later. Let's begin with the front. The front, as always, is maybe the most interesting part. In my opinion, it looks very good, it looks very clean, and it was actually, as I said, it wasn't too hard to recreate this. Yeah, the first thing I came up with was actually the headlights. It was actually the first thing I came up with for the whole car. And as you can see, I used binoculars. And I know I used binoculars a lot before, especially for exhaust pipes, but also for headlights. For example, my Pagani Sonda R used black binocular pieces to create the headlights. Which was one of my first videos here on YouTube. But yeah, anyway, this time I used light bluish grey binoculars, 2 on each side, and I think they work perfect for the Bugatti Chiron headlights. The problem, or not the problem, but the thing with the binocular pieces is that they actually are a bit wider than one stud, so you can't actually fit them right beside each other. So to solve that problem and also create this sloping effect, I used jumper plates just to offset the binoculars from each other just a bit so they would fit. So the top of the binoculars, which are the part of the binoculars that actually are wider than one stud. So yeah, just so they would fit beside each other. And that worked out perfectly in my opinion. It just looks good and it's for a functional reason as well. But anyway, over to the front grille. This is actually not at all complex. It's based around the 1x1 round corner tiles, as you can see. And again, almost immediately before I even started building this, I thought of using these round corner tiles to create the front grille. And yeah, it works perfectly. The tricky part with the front grille was actually this in its own is a bit too short for the Bugatti front grille. And to solve that problem, I actually used one of these pieces, which are the 1x2 plates, or modified plates with a rail, and fit them upside down together with this part of the grille. And then it just makes the grille a bit longer, so it would scale almost perfectly to the actual Bugatti Chiron. To fit this upside down under this part of the grille was actually the most complex thing on this entire car, I think, actually, just because I hadn't a lot of space to work with, and yeah, you just had to build around a lot of things. But yeah, I used, again, as always, a lot of brackets and modified pieces with stuff inside to achieve this and to fit it perfectly in the Lego space, if you will. But other than that, the front was pretty straightforward actually. Maybe the other interesting thing is how these wedge pieces and these 1x2 slope pieces are attached. They are using 1x1 brackets, and they are fit to some 1x1 modified bricks with studs on side and angled just slightly, just so they could fit over the binoculars or the headlights. But yeah, anyway, I think we should move on to the rear. This time I think the rear and the front was just as complex to create. And for those of you who know how the Bugatti Chiron rear looks, know that it doesn't look super complex. It's this big huge hole almost. I don't know what I should call it, but yeah, it looks very simple. It's very clean, and you have this long light. But yeah, the reason why that was complex to recreate was because, and here is, as I said, another part I figured out even before I started building this, and that was the long rear light. I knew I wanted to build that rear light 7 stud wide using some wedge plates. And that was the tricky part, because to blend an uneven number of studs in with an even number of studs that the car is 8 stud wide, and this light is 7 stud wide. And you of course have to use jumper plates. But the reason why I made it 7 studs wide was because I wanted it to fit in this kind of hole that the Bugatti Chiron has at the back or at the rear. So to achieve this, I of course first built the rear light, this long thing, and tried to attach it somehow in a good way into the car. And that wasn't too tricky. The tricky part was to make it durable. It actually is quite a lot more that goes into this than you actually can see. It some brackets that again goes into the car just so it would fit in it fits with 2 jumper plates, just so it would be a bit more durable. It's still not super durable, but it works. Then to build this kind of frame is a better word than hole, frame around this rear light, I used again modified bricks with studs on side and a lot of upside down building technique. A very, very nice part to use for that is the 1x1 modified bricks with 2 studs on the opposite sides, because you can build like a box thing. It's hard to show like this, but I think you can get an idea of how it's created. But you can build kind of a box thing. It goes from upside down to the side and to the top, and this just works very well for building frames and stuff like that. And that actually is pretty straightforward. And one interesting part as well to mention is that this, as it has a hole in the stud, and because all the plates have kind of a part sticking out to fit into this hole, I could use this as kind of a jumper plate effect and just go from 8 wide to 7 wide and back to 8 stud again. But yeah, it was quite a lot of interesting building techniques at the rear here, but I don't want to go too in depth with it, because it's just, as I said before, it's a lot of brackets and modified bricks with studs on side, and I can't stretch that enough. I use that so much. It's just so important in every single build, but mostly the car models. Anyway, the sides are kind of interesting because I think they are a lot more detailed than most of my other cars. You have this curve going on here, and you also have this curve that is on top of this blue part. This curve is a very, very, very iconic curve, a very iconic part of the Bugatti Chiron. This curve that goes around and stretches from the bottom to the top to the roof. And this was a really important part to capture for me. I would actually have liked to emphasize this curve a bit more with this car, but yeah, I think it works fine. I had actually planned to use some pneumatic tubes, like bluish gray tubes, and create a curve with them just to emphasize the curve and also to represent the silver stripe that goes along the curve on the real car. But first I only had the pneumatic tubes come in 2 sizes. The older ones are 3mm, I think, and the new ones are 4mm. And I only had the newer ones in light bluish gray. So if I would have had to incorporate that into this, I would have had to order some light bluish gray pneumatic tubes. that is 3mm. First, I didn't want to wait for them, and in the end I'm actually quite happy I didn't use them, because it would have looked too bulky with some very thick tubes, because 3mm is still quite thick for an 8-stud wide car. I think it was actually better to not incorporate them into this. But yeah, the curve works very good until it comes over to the roof, where I would have liked to just find a way to emphasize the curve a bit more in the transition here to the roof. But I think this is good enough. Also, the sides are actually quite thick on this car, which means that it's not a whole lot of space for the minifigs inside. But yeah, they do fit very, very tightly though. But I so wanted to use these curved slope pieces here in the blue ones, just to, you know, the whole Bugatti Chiron is very, very curved based. If I would have used some tiles here instead, sure, it would have given the minifigs a lot more space in the car. I just think it wouldn't have looked as good as this does with some flat plates instead of these curves. So yeah, I decided to go with this, and the minifigs they do still fit, but it's kind of a tight fit. And yeah, the roof line isn't too interesting actually. You know, where it begins here, these pillars are just fit with some hinges and just angled a bit. Then when it goes over to the roof is actually the first time I use a 5-stud wide roof. Usually I use 6 studs or 4 studs or something like that. But yes, 5 studs this time. That's not the most interesting part. The most interesting part is that the roof doesn't fit just directly on a stud or anything. It's actually offset a bit, you know, towards the back, using some, once again, brackets. And I think that works perfectly. Normally I adjust the pillars here to fit with the roof, but this time I adjusted the roof and it works. And this time I didn't use an actual windscreen. I just built it up like a windscreen effect, as I usually say, with some bar pieces. And it works, it looks good, and yeah, that's it. Alright, thank you so much for watching. I really hope you liked this video, and please feel free to subscribe and follow me on Instagram and all that. If you haven't seen my updates and reveal and future plan videos, I really encourage you to do that, because it is quite a lot going on right now. I just revealed the first set I am planning to create, which is the Koenigsegg Jesko. And yeah, the criteria was that if I got 5 pre-orders, then it would happen. So if I got less than that, I wouldn't do it. But I have gotten 5 pre-orders, so that is happening, which is super exciting. And as I think all of you who follow me on Instagram know, I'm also planning to release some rims, some more detailed rims that work with the Speed Champion style wheels. So that is also happening very, very soon. And the criteria there is that I think I would have to go with at least 50 pre-orders for those, but maybe 25. I'm not too sure yet, but yeah, that's up and coming, hopefully very soon. Right now I think I'm just in a position where I really want to test a lot of things and see what works. I'm still going to release instructions for a lot of my models. Now I have tried to create a set, which was a success, and yeah, the rims are coming up, so it's a lot of things, and it's really exciting. But yeah, other than that, I always come up with new plans for new models each and every day, and new plans just related to this. But yeah, I will just keep on testing stuff and see what you like. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now.